if you're watching this, you and I, we have probably one thing in common. You hate making cold calls. And honestly, I get you. I hate it too. But what's absolutely crazy to me is that living in 2025, 2026, with all the technology that exists today, the number one thing that real estate agents are being told to get more leads in their life is to pick up the phone and start dialing. But there is a much better way, and that's why I created the ABC method. It's by far the best way to get more warm leads in your life as a real estate agent from everything that I've observed for over 2 years and 100+ hours studying what works and what doesn't. So that's why we're going to jump into the next section to talk more about that. So first off, I think it's super important to be clear about who this is for. And first off, it's for people that want to build a system that will get you warm leads over time. It's super important as well that you're willing to post consistently over this 90-day program that we're having. And a thing that I want to start off as well is that when the 90-day program is over, who will be a winner in my eyes? And it's very, very simple. A winner in my eyes is a person that does exactly what is outlined in the program. Nothing else. I don't care if you get 100 leads. I don't care if you get 0 leads. If you just do what is outlined in the program, you are, in my eyes, a winner. So in my eyes, the bar is not that too high. It's not super low as well, but I think there is a very reasonable expectation to be having from my side because I'm going to give you my absolute everything to make that happen. And next on, I think it's super important as well to know who this is not for. And I think it's super clear, like this is not a program for people that are, wishing and wanting a magic wand that they just wave and they just get absolutely insane loads of leads without having to do 0 work. Because honestly, that's not how reality works. You have to put in the work, and there are systems that make things like as easy as possible, and that's what we're outlining in this program as well. But if you're a person looking at this and like, I don't want to put in any work at all, I just want things to happen for me, like in a magic way, like this is not for you. So I think that's very important to be talking about. But if you want a system that can really change your life, if you give it time, keep watching. So first of all, I think it's super important to talk about like the real problem here. And if you're just going to be brutally honest, me sitting here speaking with you right now, you're probably an ambitious real estate agent. That's why you're watching this. Like, first off, like your problem is not that, you know how to handle clients. I think, you and I, we both know that. Second off, like you're not bad at your job and you know how to sell. So I think that because so many times we get told that, this is the problem to why we're not, at the place we want to be. But if we're going to be brutally honest, from everything that I'm observing and from things that I have felt myself, those things are not the problem. Most agents actually have a lead problem. So that's why you're sitting here right now watching this. You want to take yourself to the next level. And if you think about it, the more leads you get, the more apartments you might be selling. So everything is downstream from lead generation. So that's really the problem that we're going to fix here. And I think it's super important as well to have understanding, like it doesn't matter if you're the best real estate agent in the world if no clients of yours doesn't even know that you exist. So that's why I really wanted to give you a question here. If you think about 100% of your total market, as you can see in the circle that I have outlined here in a very good manner, if you take and think about, okay, 100% of my total market, meaning the whole area that you can potentially sell apartments in, you see that as 100% of your market. Now think about this. How many of those does even know that you as a real estate agent exist? If we're going to be brutally honest here, if you say 40%, 50%, I'm not believing you because I'm a successful real estate agent myself, and that is not even the case for me. So most likely it's somewhere between 1% up to 10%. If we're going to generalize, I think it's around 5%, as you can see here. So if that is the case, 95% of your potential market doesn't even know that you exist as a real estate agent. You know, the firm that you work for, etc. It doesn't matter in this case. You as an agent. Then the question number 2 that comes is very simple. How many of those people think of you first when it's time to sell? Because first off is how many people know that you exist. And second off is how many of those think of you first, meaning how many are you top of mind at. Super important as well to be thinking about. And, you know, in many cases, like, let's say you're at 5% and now you are maybe at 1%. You know, that number is actually painfully low. So that's why, you know, the top of mind effect is so important. And if you look at things here right now, I'm just going to take a very simple example for you to get a more understanding of how this works and how, in my eyes, smart agents operate to, you know, fix this problem. So first of all, to get a deeper understanding of this works when it comes to the top of mind effect, as you can see, a bag of money. And then first off, let's say we have an area where it exists 30,000 potential homes that could be sold. So not rental apartments, you know, apartments that you could be selling. And, you know, generalize, you know, roughly 8 to 9% is, you know, being sold every year. So what happens then? Well, your, you know, total market is then 2,700 potential sales. And now things get very interesting. So let's say, you know, 100% of the market is 2,700. How many inbound leads do you get per year? So let's say, you know, is it 24, 36, 50? You know, I don't know the number. You know the number for you. I know the number for myself. And I like to make things simple. So let's say that we take 36 inbound leads every single year. And now that we know that, okay, we have, you know, 2,700 sold homes per year, you get 36 inbound leads per year. That means that you're only top of mind roughly 1 to 2% of those people. So for me, it's absolutely crazy because you're not going to sit here and be disappointed in yourself. The way you should look about this is like, well, if 1 to 2% of my total market I am top of mind at, then it means that you have 99% or 98% of potential client of yours out there to make you being top of mind in their head. So that is an insane potential. So now, what happens? If we go from 1% or 2% up to 5%. In my eyes, now is where the magic is happening. And the fun part is that when you go from that place to 1 to 2% up to 5% or even more, like, you're not going to be famous. You're not going to be an influencer. Like, the goal is to be known in your area. Like, that is the number one goal, because that will lead to you being, you know, more top of mind to the right people. And what happens when you go from 1 to 2% to 5%? Well, your income explodes. And if you're watching this right now, I guess you want this to happening for you. I would at least want this to happening for me if I would be watching. And that's why I think it's super important to go into, like, you know, what things does this program solve? And I'm very, you know, transparent about, you know, setting expectations right. And I would say there are two main things that we're going to solve with this type of program in the way it's outlined. And number one is making sure that more of your market knows that you exist. So to put things very, very simple, potential client of yours in the area that you sell, more of those knows that you exist. And then number two is making sure that the leads you get are warm before the first meeting. Because if you fix that, more of these people know that you exist, aka your potential clients, and you make sure that every single lead that you get are as warm as possible before you meet them, you know, face to face in their apartment, speaking about offers and, you know, valuations and stuff. If you make sure that it's as warm as possible beforehand, that maximizes the chances that your hit rate goes up. So this is really the way we're going to operate, and this is really the key two things that we're trying to solve with this program. Because if you are an ambitious real estate agent, I guess you want your hit rate to go up. And what really happens as well is that we go from a place of, chasing, wanting more leads, working in a system that doesn't really help you. So we really go from, stop chasing into start attracting the right things that you want in your life. And by now, if you're watching this and you think, well, this sounds very smart, it sounds very reasonable, everything makes sense. But who are you? The guy on this camera right now speaking. And I think it's a very fair question to be taken. And some people know me since before. Some people might be, my face is a new one for you. So I think it's very, professional to introduce myself a little bit. So first off, I've been a real estate agent for almost 5 years. Working in the same area since day one. I've been in the industry for almost 8 years, and working with sales, I think, for almost 12 years for now. So if you ask the people that know me, they say that I know my stuff. The most important thing to be aware of as well is that, I haven't worked in a very, very small town, in a very super, non-competitive market. I have actually since day one worked in the most competitive market in the total in the whole country, better put. And what place is that? Well, it's the capital of Sweden, and that is Stockholm. More specifically, I've been working in Stockholm City. So if you just take at the place where I operate, it's roughly like 320 different individual real estate agents in my area. So I compete with 319 of other people out there. And it's super important as well to be known, like, well, okay, how well have I performed as a real estate agent? Well, if you look at, the 3 years in a row, I have been the most selling real estate agent in my target area, meaning number one, most selling in my area for the last 3 years in a row. On top of that, I also work at the number one most selling firm in the total area that I work in, meaning the total market of mine. And if you just look at, everything that I'm talking about right now, it's nothing that I just, I didn't wake up, yesterday and thought, well, this could be a very smart thing. I have been, obsessed with this over the last 1.5 years, thinking, trying, building my own personal brand, what works, what doesn't. So I have been absolutely obsessed for, I would say, the last 1.5 years to 2 years on one thing, and that is like how personal brands turn attention into trust, and that trust then into warm inbound leads. So that's what I've been obsessed about. So, everything that we're talking about in this program, it's absolutely amazing. It's nothing that I just, it's nothing that I just wing by myself. It's something that I really have studied and looked at what works and what doesn't, and have learned from the absolute best in the world in doing so. Because I think there's a very smart way. Look at the best, what do they do, and then, try to apply that in this specific industry. And now we come into the ABC method, which is the main system and how we're going to get what we want in our life as a real estate agent. First off, it's attract, build trust, close. So that's really what the ABC method stands for. And I think it's like there's so many things that I've been observing for my years in the industry. And first off, I think it's so many agents, they focus on one part of the process, which is closing. So they might not have enough client meetings and leads, but when they are at the meeting, they're doing everything they can to close them. But we're missing two crucial parts, because like if you don't attract the right people, you don't build trust before the meeting, which lead to every lead and every client meeting that you go on, it feels very cold. So that's why, the way we're going to, work with this in the program, of course, I cannot talk about everything right now. You will get that in the program. But to get it very simple here, how are we going to make this happen? Well, first off, you can see that organic content, it's on the absolute top. It's what fuels the whole engine. Without organic content, like this doesn't work. So if you don't post things on social media, this won't work. Just be super clear. So it's the fuel to the car, and if you drive a car without fuel and you have nothing left, you cannot come further. So it's the same way with the ABC engine. And first off, you work with an ad, and then you go into the next phase, which is nurture, and then you go to trust, and then you go to the offer. And then, the flywheel keeps on going, and then it goes back, and then you use those things into, making more content and more ads. So, honestly, I'm super proud of what I've created here. The ABC engine is the closest thing to a cheat code that you can get in your life as a real estate agent. Man, I wish this thing existed, in the beginning of my career as a real estate agent, because if that would be the case, I would have been so much further than I am today. And and most importantly, I would be so much further faster. So honestly, I'm not sitting here and talking about things that doesn't, is true. This is the closest thing to a cheat code that you really can get in this modern day and age as a real estate agent. And now I think it's super important to understand as well. Well, okay, this sounds very good. What's going to happen inside the 90-day program? So first off, I would say it's outlined in 3 phases. First off, we have phase 1, which is basically the foundation. You have to be crystal clear on your why, your direction, and the standards you operate on. So we take a deep dive into who you are, what's your strengths, how do you operate, etc. And then when it comes to phase 2, it's time for a system. So we make sure that, everything that we're going to be using, it's up and running. We set it up correctly in the right way, profile, tools, email, newsletter, etc. And then when it comes to phase 3, now it's really time to start the engine. You start posting what works, what doesn't work. It's all about putting the reps in and getting to work. So that is really what it's all about when it comes to phase 3. So yeah, that is really what is happening inside the 90-day program. And now I think it's super important as well to jump down a little bit to talk more about. So I think it's super important to talk about expectations. And as I said in the beginning, in my eyes, if you implement everything in the program, you will get more warm leads. I can guarantee you that. But what I can't guarantee you is how fast it goes. Because if you are a winner and you're doing everything that is outlined in this program, you are going to get more warm leads. It's a fact because it works. But what I can't guarantee you is how fast it goes. So for some people, it might take weeks. For others, it might take months or even years. But that's why we're not focusing on the time frame here. Because you're going to get the tools to make this happen. And how long it takes, it's not up to you, it's not up to me. It's really about the market and how everything looks in the current moment. And that's why we're not focusing, on the timeline, but we're focusing on the inputs. And from everything I've learned about studying success and how successful people get to where they are, they're not focusing on the time frame. They just they commit to one goal and no time frame. And they will work as hard as they can for as long as they can and be as patient as they can until they hit the goal. And if it take 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, it doesn't matter. Just committed to making the goal happen. So I think that is something that I wanted to give you as well. It's super important to not have expectations of, posting for 1 week and next week you explode with leads, because that's not really how the reality works. I think that is super important to just be aware of. And next off, we have excuses. And I hate excuses. So if you know me, I'm not a man of excuses. But I think it's very important to just shoot through a few of them. My absolute favorite, and that is that I don't have the time. So that's why in the first things that we do in the program, we work with systems that make sure that we buy back your time. So that excuse doesn't work anymore. And next on, you could be saying, well, everything sounds good, but I'm not confident on camera. And I will give you an inside secret from me to you. And that is that I'm sitting here right now filming with the camera. And I can tell you in the beginning, I was not confident as well. And most of you that really know me, that know that I'm actually not an extroverted person. I'm much more an introverted person. So I can tell you, if I can do it, you can do it as well. And I will guide you along the way. Next one we could be having is, well, my market is slow. And this one I would say is a very bad one, because if your market is slow, then you're probably going to need this more than ever. And next one is, I'm not creative. And this one, I can get it. I would say that me being a person, I'm not creative as well. So that's why I've outlined the program in a very, very simple way. So we make everything as simple as possible, so you will get into these things along the way. So I think this is just very important to be aware of. And last two things. We're almost done with the video, so very good for you keeping so far. First off, investment. Obviously, this is not going to be something that is for free. That would not be a profitable business for me, and that would not be able to do this full time in the future. So as you being a real estate agent, you cannot sell apartments for free. Neither can I do this for free either. So I think you get the sense. You cannot sell apartments for free, and I cannot do it as well. So that's why, this is a program for real estate agents that are, ambitious, and it's a, serious program where I'm going to give it my absolute all from my side. You're going to get the exact tools, but in the end, you have to execute on your own. I cannot sell an apartment for you. I cannot, do your content for you either in this program. So I think that is very important to be aware of. And of course, if you're accepted, you get all the details of investments and pricing and stuff before our first short call. So now you have made it to the last of the video. What's next? Well, what you're going to do right now is to scroll down on the page, and you see on the very bottom, you see apply. And as soon as you have filled in the form, I will be in touch.